But Donald Trump sent this armada to the Middle East in the belief that he could pressure, that he could coerce the Iranians into doing his will. Well, that hasn't happened. And I think that, while the Iranians aren't seeking conflict, they will go all out if they are actually attacked.
Yeah.
The question is, does Donald Trump want to start a war that he may not have any control over the escalation of?
Now, Iran. The talks on Iran started again today. Oman, the American and Iranian sides there in Geneva. The Omani foreign minister said the creative and positive ideas had been exchanged. A spokesperson for Iran's foreign ministry said they were confident about serious talks. This was to Catherine Philp, Times World Affairs editor. Welcome back to you, Catherine.
Hi, John. How are you?
I'm well, thanks for coming on again. So, look, we've had 3 hours of talks. Are we
Yeah.
remotely any wiser on the state of things now and the prospects, if they are there at all, for some kind of peaceful agreement?
I don't think we're much wiser, but I think the fact that these talks broke up for consultation with capitals and have now resumed in the last hour, we must see that as a positive because the fact is that but the negotiators on both sides do not have the authority to essentially move the goalposts on their own account. So there are red lines that are set by the supreme leader in Tehran, and there are also consultations, possibly more flexible lines in Washington. But nonetheless, both of them have to go back and consult with their capitals. And so that has happened. And the fact that that's happening suggests that there might be potential for something to be reached. It's still, they are a very long way apart, but the fact that that has happened in itself, I think we have to take as a positive.
Right. We're having a kind of imagined echo of a conversation in the Situation Room at the White House or at the Pentagon right
Yeah.
now. And it all concerns what Donald Rumsfeld, a former defense secretary, famously described as the known unknowns, don't they? I mean, what sort of attack would be most appropriate? What sort of response would that trigger from the Iranian regime? All these questions, there are so many permutations of them.
Yeah, we talked a bit about this yesterday. I mean, I wonder if that has sort of got through to the Trump administration that they can't be sure exactly how the Iranians would respond. And the fact is that as far as everyone what I've been able to discern from everyone I've spoken to on both sides, no one actually wants this to end in a conflict. But Donald Trump sent this armada to the Middle East in the belief that he could pressure, that he could coerce the Iranians into doing his will. Well, that hasn't happened. And I think that, while the Iranians aren't seeking conflict, they will go all out if they are actually attacked.
Yeah.
The question is, does Donald Trump want to start a war that he may not have any control over the escalation of in an election year when there's midterms? This conflict, no one in America really understands why he is seeking this conflict. The Iranian nuclear program is essentially in abeyance. It has not restarted since the attacks of June last year. And it's frankly a mystery, I think, to the American people why he is seeking this confrontation, because he hasn't actually explained it. And he didn't, as we thought he might in his State of Union, make a case for why it matters.
Yes.
The fact is that Iran does not constitute a credible military threat to the United States. So it's reasonable for people on all sides of the political spectrum in the US to be asking why on earth this needs to be done right now.
And hearing Trump's emissary, Steve Witkoff, talk about the president being curious as to why Iran had not yet capitulated, does tell us that Donald Trump is wondering, does not know where whatever comes next is going to lead. We do know this, though, don't we, if we know anything about Donald Trump, that whatever happens now on his order, he will want to depict it as a victory.
He absolutely will. And, I for one, actually thought that that he for the last few weeks, I thought it was quite likely he would take that victory, because what he did in 2018 was he cancelled the deal that Obama had already made with the Iranians over their nuclear program. And it looked like he would essentially take what he was given in order to replace that deal, and be able to go, well, look, I did a better deal. It's not clear that the Iranians are offering anything to him that would constitute a better deal. And there is, of course, that deal that Obama did, one of the great criticisms from his side was that it didn't address the other issues of Iran's ballistic missile program, of its program of intimidation of people in the region with its proxies. It's very much not clear, or not currently imaginable, that Iran will do a deal over those issues. So if Trump is to do a deal, it's probably going to have to just be about that nuclear program, and he's going to have to be able to spin it that this was a better deal, that there was a point to cancelling the deal that Obama did, and that he somehow managed to do a better deal. And I think that really rests very much on whether he is actually prepared to stand down these forces that he sent to the Middle East,
Yes.
whether he can find a way of doing that does not talk to this criticism that he particularly dislikes, which is he is a taco president, that Trump always chickens out. He doesn't like that narrative, and whatever way he's going to spin this, as much as he doesn't really want to commit to military action. I mean, Israel wants him to, but he doesn't. I think that is certainly true. He also doesn't want to look like he is the one who's backed down. So some kind of face-saving solution would have to come out of this, and currently that's still difficult to see.
It's just a couple of weeks since President Trump was posting on Truth Social an incitement urging Iranian protesters to take to the streets and risk everything by rising up in numbers against the regime. Now we hear much less about the protests and any commitment to the protesters of Iran. But we do, at least I see reports, Catherine, of the chief of the US Defense Staff, General Kane, reported at least to be warning the president that there's no knowing what regime change, if there is regime change, would lead to, what the succession regime may look like, which just sows more doubts over where to go.
Absolutely. And we talked about this yesterday, John. I mean, the Iranians have been very alive to this, and they've made extraordinary plans for what that succession would look like. The idea that you could decapitate the regime, that there's another Delcy Rodriguez in the wings, as there was in Venezuela, is very, very hard to imagine, because the people who are in charge of security in Iran are so embedded in the system that they're not just ideological; they also have business interests that are not transferable. These aren't people who can just fly out of the country with bags of cash. It's very much embedded in the system. We're talking now, of course, of the Revolutionary Guards. They have much to lose if this regime ends, and everything to gain, as they see it, by hanging in there like limpets. I mean, definitely the Supreme Leader himself, I don't see him giving up power in any way willingly, because if he did that, despite his desire for the regime to persist and to survive, if it isn't a regime that looks like the one that embodies revolutionary Iran, well, what is the point? It is no longer the defiant leader of the resistance, of the Shia resistance, the axis of resistance, as they call it, and a regional power if it submits to US demands. So yeah, it's very, very hard to see how the US could possibly effect that regime change without carrying out something that might look like the Iraq invasion of 2003, and
Yeah.
long term that didn't work out so well. You cannot simply effect these changes with airstrikes alone, and that is exactly what Trump's generals, Trump's Pentagon, and General Kane have been telling him.
Always great to get your thoughts, Catherine. Thank you. Catherine Philp there, the World Affairs editor of The Times.